Thing I wanted to bring up is something I recently addressed in one of my Paul Reacts posts, which people seem to love. And some guy was saying there's no such thing as organic, and he had an organic banana and a commercial banana, and he said, quoting research saying there's no nutritional difference in them and that it's all a scam. And then he cited the USDA, the government official that was put in charge of that, and he says that this has nothing to do with food quality and a bunch of, typical political crap. And then another argument is they all include pesticides now because they're in the rain cycle. They blow across into fields, so there's no such thing as organic, blah, blah, blah. But anyhow, I cited, because when I was writing How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I kept coming across these studies comparing commercial and organic, saying that there was no difference. And it was really irritating to me because I knew it was propaganda. I'm like, how in the fucking hell? So anyhow, long story made short, I ended up, by happen chance, getting in a food scientist reached out to me who had been studying my articles and work. And he was actually a professor of agriculture, and he gave me a chart, which is right here, showing about, this one was produced in 2016, showing about 100 organic certifications, and lo and behold, when you look at it, guess who owns these organic certifications? How about Snickers, Mars Bar, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Nestlé, Kraft, all the junk food manufacturers. And so as I was investigating, I started looking into, how in the world are they getting these results? And I read the papers of William A. Albrecht. I've got his collected works of 800 papers. He was a famous soil scientist who basically lost his job for telling the truth about the soil and soil science because the university he was at was funded by, I believe, Monsanto or one of the DuPont chemical, someone making pesticides. And they said if he keeps publishing those papers, we're not going to fund you anymore. So they ultimatumed him, and he said, screw it, I'm going to leave. But he had been a professor for 35 years. But anyhow, what I found out, which was quite revealing, is that the way these scientific papers keep getting published showing there's no difference between conventional and organic is that these companies like Pepsi and all these other guys will take food, and most of these companies have their financial ties to agricultural programs, just like the drug companies have it in the medical system. And 60% of a medical doctor's education is paid for by drug companies. So they got their hooks in. And so what they do is they will then go to a university, run a research project to determine the nutritional difference between such and such organic food and the conventional food. And what they don't tell you is that the organic farm is owned by them, and it's a bogus organic certification, and it's the same damn food coming from a different field, sold under a different label, and lo and behold, the mystery is solved. And so I came across a paper by the British Soil Association, which is actually quite a good soil association, and they collected 128 research papers looking exactly at the difference between conventional and organic food. I think I can't remember the percentage, but something like 56 or more percentage of them said there was no difference. But what they did was they got a panel of scientists together, and they analyzed each of these studies to see if it was scientifically valid, the way the study was set up, to get the conclusions that they got. Of 128 papers, 100 of them were scientifically invalid. Of the 28 remaining papers, all of them showed significant increases in nutritional density and other related factors with organic food compared to non-organic food. Not to mention animal feeding studies and studies that show on average a person or an animal eating organic food reaches satiety about 30% sooner than they do with commercial food. In other words, you eat about 30% less, which offsets the cost. So anyhow, I bring these things up because most people are getting tricked by, again, propaganda, and that's why I shared that diagram with you. So I can keep bringing great people like Pete to you guys. Thank you for applying as much of what we shared today in your life, especially with your children, as possible. And let's all work together to make the world a better place for all living beings now and in the future. Peace. Amen. Aho, Great Spirit. Thank you, Pete.
Cheers, brother. Love you.
You too.